So yes, hello. Welcome back to Fantasian Neo Dimension. It's been about a week and a half. So yeah, it's been about a week and a half because I spent all of the previous week at a big-ass furry convention instead of streaming, and it was a good time. I had a lot of fun. I did a lot of cool stuff. Had some fun new experiences. Got to meet some, oh my god, got to meet some friends in person for the first time. And I will be yapping about all of that. So, FWA, Furry Weekend Atlanta. It's a big-ass furry convention, one of the largest in the world. You'll never guess where it is. It was from May 7th to the 10th, 2026, at time of recording. It's been going for like over 20 years at this point. I don't remember like when its inaugural year was, but it's been happening for a while. So the convention like started on Thursday last week, but I drove to that area the preceding Wednesday, just to give myself like time to check into my motel and, you know, scope things out, yada yada, you know how it is, get settled, etc. So it's in Atlanta, but I drove to my motel, which was in Norcross, which is like a 20-minute drive outside of Atlanta. It's kind of like a smaller like sub city. You know how those things work. It's staying in a motel there was a lot cheaper than trying to stay in one of the main hotels probably would have been. I haven't checked the prices on those, but like, given that I'm A, poor, and B, unemployed, probably outside of my price range. Just gonna hazard a guess. So I elected to stay at a motel nearby instead. I still had to worry about like parking, but that's a separate issue that I'll get to later. The drive there was uneventful. It was about 3.5 hours from where I live, my current city of residence. Not too bad. I've definitely done worse drives. I've talked about this before, but a few years ago I went on a road trip to California to visit some friends. Partially because I wanted to see them in person, partially because I just wanted to, you know, have that experience of making that long trip on my own. And in comparison to that, which was like multiple 10 to 12 hour drives, this was hardly anything. I'll try and focus on group attacks. Anyway, so the drive itself was pretty uneventful, although gas prices are getting pretty outrageous nowadays. Y'all know how it is. But I got to my motel okay, unpacked, charged my phone a little bit, looked for some food. I found a place called Grill Taco. You'll never guess what they had. They did in fact have tacos, although I got like a chicken fajita there, something like that. It was pretty good. And then I went to take a nap, and then I just ended up falling asleep for 6 hours. I think there was something in those tacos that maybe adversely affected me, because when I ate some more after I woke up, I like started immediately getting a headache, and it was a pretty bad headache bordering on a migraine that lasted through the rest of the night. It's a good thing oh my god. It's a good thing I wasn't doing much of anything on a Wednesday. Wednesday was mostly just a travel day for me. So Thursday was like the first actual day of the convention, and it was fortunately pretty chill, but unfortunately the weather there was miserable that day. It was awful. I drove down to a nearby Publix in the pouring rain to get some sandwich supplies because my motel room had both... Nice. My motel room had both a mini fridge and a microwave, which would come in useful. Oh god. So after I got that, and I got back to my room and put it up, I immediately started driving to the convention because I knew it was going to take a while. And I was right, it did take a while. It took... So like, my motel was like theoretically a 20-minute drive or so from the main convention, but it ended up taking the better part of an hour, thanks to a combination of the weather and traffic. It was pretty horrendous. I got there eventually, but my car was starting to have like trouble accelerating by the end of it. I think, luckily, that was mostly a weather issue, because that seemed to clear up on the following days. And oh my god, I am getting beat up by these dudes. There's no way I last. Yeah, I'm dead. Return to checkpoint, please. So I got to the convention, and I initially just hung out for a little bit, because the first day of a convention is always a pretty chill day. Trying to focus on doing proper actions in battle and also tell a story about a lengthy weekend is a little bit difficult, but oh my god, but I'm doing my best. That first day I got there, I parked at a spot at a lot like right next to the main hotel, but That shit is highway robbery. I would not recommend doing that if you intend to visit that place anytime in the future. It's like $30 basically for an all-day pass for like a 24-hour period, and that sucks. $32 to be precise. That shit's too much. No thank you. I did thankfully find better parking solutions further into the convention, but that's getting a little bit ahead of myself. But pretty soon after I got there, I met up with my friend Theo. He's we've been friends for a few years now, but we hadn't had the chance to meet in person. But that Thursday, we finally got the chance to do that. It was nice. We went to go get coffee at a place called Caribou Coffee. It was really cute. Has some cute like signage and logos and stuff. And then we hung out, talked a little bit. He bought me a very delicious like white chocolate raspberry scone concoction thing. Oh, that was so good. And then after that, he went to go hang out with some friends of his own, and I went to go take care of registration, which was, I think, at a different hotel than the main one. There's like, FWA takes place at like, the main hotel is the Hilton Marriott Marquis, but there's also like 2 other branching hotels that are connected to it by sky bridges, which is cool. And then there's also this other hotel that happened to be nearby. I think it was the Cortland Grand, and that was where registration was happening. So I went there to take care of that, and it didn't actually take too terribly long. It's been my experience that FWA generally knows how to keep like registration lines going pretty expediently, pretty quickly. I don't think it took more than like 20 or 30 minutes, which is really nice. So like after registration, which didn't take very long at all, and like once we were all registered, they gave us like these cool like keychain key fob things, which was neat. But after I registered, I went back to the food court to get my own food because I didn't get food when I was there with Theo because I had already eaten that morning, yada yada yada. So after I got food, I went back to the Marriott, and then I went from there across the sky bridge over to the Hilton, which is where they keep their gigantic big ass arcade for the weekend. And oh my god, y'all, I love the arcade so much. It's been fun in previous years, but like this year especially, since I've gotten into fighting games in the preceding time between like 2025 FWA and 2026. I worded that extremely messily, but my point is, in the intervening time between conventions, I have only grown to appreciate the arcade more because there's more stuff for me to do there technically, even though it's like probably mostly the same cabinets. They had all sorts of cool cabinets there. They had an authentic Street Fighter 3 Third Strike cabinet, which is cool, like a multiplayer cabinet, which is technically 2 cabinets facing each other. So in such a way that like you can't see what the other player is doing. It's very cool. It's difficult to describe if you're not there in person. Maybe not difficult, but I'm lacking the proper vocabulary for it because I'm very smart. They had other cabinets too. They had Vampire Saviors there, which I haven't learned, but I want to at some point. And they had the old Capcom JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fighting game there. I played that a lot over this past weekend. That was a lot of fun. In fact, when I was first there, I happened to come across 2 people, and one of them was playing Midler. That's the character that I play in that game, and I taught them how to do the quarter circle back so they could do the Geico neutral in real time. That was fun, and I got to play some matches with folks. That was pretty cool. And they had a big section near the back that's just like a whole shit ton of TVs set up with different consoles and stuff. I saw one day they had like Silent Hill 2 on an original Xbox hooked up to one of the TVs for some reason. I don't know why they had that, but they did. They had like the original Soul Calibur for the Sega Dreamcast. I should have checked that out actually. I haven't played Soul Calibur in a long time. I have fond memories of playing Soul Calibur 2 and 3 growing up, and Soul Calibur 4 to a lesser extent. But yeah, I hung out in the arcade for a while, and I got to play some Street Fighter 6 with people, which is nice. That's like my main fighting game right now. That's the game I picked up that like got me into fighting games over this past year. It was a lot of fun playing with folks. I got to play some Manon mirror matches against a player named Yoko. Apparently they had only been playing the game for like a month, but they were already pretty good. So I assume they must have some previous experience with fighting games. But after I was done in the arcade for the night, I saw that there was going to be a Street Fighter 6 tournament the next day, and I knew that there had been one the previous year, but that was before I was, playing fighting games at all. So I thought to myself, you know what? Why the hell not? Let's sign up. What's the worst that can happen? So I signed up for that Street Fighter 6 tournament to be held the next day, fully expecting that I would probably get eliminated like basically immediately, because I'm okay at the game. I got to master rank a couple of months ago after all, but there are some scary good players out there. There were some scary good players at the convention. The spoiler alert, the player who ended up winning the tournament was a Kimberly player, and they were a monster. I did not see them, correction, I saw them lose a single set the entire tournament, and it was against a really good Kim player. But anyway, I signed up for the tournament fully expecting to probably lose pretty early, but I wanted to try anyway because it was going to be my first in-person tournament, and I thought, that'll probably be pretty fun. What's the worst that could happen? I play some good games with some people, and that was pretty much the extent of my Thursday. Usually, in my experience, the first days of furry conventions are like pretty chill, which is fine with me, because, I had just spent the previous day doing a lot of traveling. So that was my Thursday in a nutshell. Pretty chill, pretty low-key, but I'm okay with that. It was fun nonetheless, and I got to hang out with a friend of mine for the first time, and Leo was getting a lot of turns in a row. Friday was way more packed. Friday ended up being like the busiest day of the entire convention for me, and it was not close. So luckily, starting on Friday, I managed to find a cheaper parking spot. It was still like $16, but that's still better than the $32 I would have been paying for the rest of the convention. Helped me save some money in the long run, which is nice. Let's see. The first couple of hours after I got there were pretty chill, but then once it reached like the afternoon going into the evening, it was just non-stop stuff was happening. I went down to like the convention store because there's always merch that's specific to whatever theme the convention has in a given year, and this year it was like nowhere in between, in as in hotel, because it was like vaguely like supernatural, eldritch, sort of spooky stuff going on. It was cool. Mostly the theme is an excuse for like themed merchandise and a lot of cool standees that are put up around the con. So I went down to the con store and I just looked around and I bought some stickers because I've learned about myself that I enjoy collecting stickers. As far as hobbies go, where the main draw is you buy stuff, it's pretty inexpensive. Stickers are pretty cheap. And, they're easy to store. You put them in your sticker book, and then you can look at them, and they're a tangible reminder of places you've been, and things you've done, and people you've seen, and all that good stuff. So I bought a few stickers, and then basically immediately after that, I went to a sticker swap meetup, which is exactly what it sounds like. And I had a specific goal in mind for this. So there's a streamer I watch named Kelef. Let me shout him out. He's one of my favorite streamers, actually, and if you're listening to this, it's true. He very occasionally has a Twitch chat point redeem that's like astronomically expensive, like over 100,000 points, and if you redeem it, he will handwrite you a letter and then deliver that letter to your house. So I redeemed that like last year, I think. And along with that letter, he also included a bunch of stickers of his persona and stuff. And I already put a bunch of them in my sticker book, but I had a bunch of duplicates, so I brought them to FWA with the intent of giving them away somehow. And it turns out this sticker swap was the perfect way to do that, essentially. So my goal at the sticker swap was to get rid of all of the Kelef stickers that I had, and swap them with new ones, or at least ones that I didn't have. And I managed to do that pretty easily, actually. And I got some cool stickers in the process. And I got to put a sticker on somebody's luggage because somebody had brought like one of their suitcases to the sticker swap meetup, and they were trying to get it like completely covered. And when I left, it looked like they were well on their way to doing that. So good on them. And pretty much immediately after that, not immediately, but like pretty soon after that, I went to a different meetup. Instead of a sticker swap, this next one was a sketchbook swap, which was also pretty self-explanatory. You hand your sketchbook to somebody and they hand you theirs, and you draw stuff in each other's sketchbooks. It was cool. It was cool. I've tried to start drawing again recently, but I've kind of fallen off the habit. I get too in my own head about my hobbies sometimes, where it's like if I don't work on something quote-unquote substantial, then it's not worth working on, which is a bullshit mindset, by the way. Just do things that make you happy. PSA from me to you. But the sketchbook swap was pretty cool. It was a way for it was a nice way for me to like get out of my own head and just like draw stuff. Especially because since I wasn't doing it for me, I was doing it for other people. I would swap sketchbooks with somebody and I'd be like, okay, what's your favorite bird? And they would tell me what their favorite bird, or they would tell me like the first bird that comes to mind when they think of birds, and then I would draw that bird for them as fast as I could. And it had to be pretty fast because for some reason the sketchbook swap was only scheduled to be like half an hour long. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. Obviously it wasn't, but whatever. I didn't organize the convention. It's fine. But it was cool. I got to draw some birds for people, and I got some pretty cool doodles on my sketchbook, and it kind of reinvigorated my my desire to draw things, because I'm not like an incredible artist or anything, but I do like drawing. I do have fun doing it, and obviously if I don't draw, then I'm not gonna be able to see the things that I want to see. So just gotta kind of get over myself a little bit and get back to drawing. And I think this has helped me in that regard, which was nice. So after the sketchbook meetup, so I went and got food, and then I went straight back to the Hilton to take part in the Street Fighter 6 tournament. This was one of the highlights of my entire convention for me. It was so much fun. I was hoping to have a good time, but I maybe underestimated it a little bit how good of a time I was going to have. Because, like, most of my experience with Street Fighter 6 has been, besides, like, streaming it, which has been fun, it's been, like, hopping into the ranked queue and playing matches against random strangers online for, like, maybe an hour, maybe longer than that, maybe longer than I should, getting increasingly tilted. And it's so easy when you're playing that way to, like, it's so easy to just, like, assume the worst of the other person, and just like read the worst possible reasoning and intuition into every single one of their decisions. Like, oh, of course they would wake up DP right there, or like, of course they would jump over my wake up super, you know. But like, it's not like that. I promise it's not like that. They're just trying to play the video game the same as you. They're just trying to like have fun and get better at the game, same as you. They're making the decisions that they think are the best ones in that particular moment, same as you. And it's like, you're not fighting assholes, you're fighting people. And it's hard, it's easy to lose track of that sometimes, I'm kind of ashamed to admit. But playing against people in person at FWA helped remind me that, you know, I am in fact playing against humans at the end of the day. But the tournament went like, it went much differently for me than I could have imagined, and also much better than I could have imagined. This particular tournament was a double elimination tournament, and if you don't know what that means, essentially, there are two brackets. Everybody starts out in the winner's bracket by default, but if you lose a match, then you get knocked down to the loser's bracket, and you stay there, basically, for the rest of the tournament, unless you can like make it to the grand finals. So if you lose once, then you still have a chance to come back later in the tournament, but if you lose in the loser's bracket, then you're knocked out for permanently. This is in contrast to like a single elimination bracket where there's just the one bracket, and if you lose once, then you're out. That's it. I'm glad it was a double elimination. Unfortunately, only the top 8 matches were streamed, and I'll link to the stream VOD in the description of the edited video, assuming it's still up. I hope it is. I don't know how long that's going to be the case, but if you're at all interested, maybe get on that as soon as you can. Might not be around forever. It probably won't be around forever, in fact. So, first round, my first match, after everybody like played some warm-up matches, you know, including myself, just to get warmed up and stuff. I didn't bring my own controller. I only have one controller, which is the one that came with my PS4 when I bought it, and it's already having some issues. Like, I'm playing this game fine, but I'm noticing more and more when I play Street Fighter on it that it has some input errors, which is deeply unfortunate. That's not the kind of thing you want in a fighting game. Trust me, I might have to look into getting getting a different controller. I forgot to mention, while I was playing Street Fighter 6 with folks, I ran into another streamer, actually. I ran into a streamer named Seesaw, who was there during the convention, which I wasn't expecting because they're from Australia, I think? Australia or New Zealand? One of the two. He has a really good Sea Viper. We did some friendly matches, and I didn't win against him once. In fact, if I had ended up going against him in the tournament, I'm not sure I would have been able to pull through. I'm gonna be honest. But thankfully that ended up not happening. I was able to avoid that. So the first round of the tournament, I went up against a Zangief player named Cola, and there were some technical difficulties before the match. Their leverless controller wasn't working properly, so they borrowed one from somebody else, and I won that set. It was 2-1. I forgot I should probably mention that these matches were like first to 2, best out of 3 sort of situation. Pretty standard. So I won 2-1, and it was pretty close sometimes. But in the next round I fought an Akuma player named Trozda, and I lost that set 2-1. So I got knocked down to the losers bracket. This was fine. I wasn't overly worried. Honestly, I wasn't really affected by nerves much. Like, I was probably a normal amount of nervous, I would say, but it otherwise didn't like affect me super hard, which was surprising. In the past, I have struggled with like issues with like stage fright and stuff, especially performing like solo music recital stuff when I was in college, but that just didn't really come up during this tournament, which I'm more than okay with, honestly. It saves me the effort. But yeah, after I got knocked down to the losers bracket, I didn't realize this at the time, but like I kind of just locked in and started playing my ass off. So the next round, I went up against a Marissa player named 6507, and I won 2-0. And then after that, I went up against another Zangief called Classified Crud, and funnily enough, this was the person who Cola had borrowed their leverless from, and they both played Zangief, which was like a funny sort of cosmic coincidence sort of deal happening there. I thought it was funny, but I won that set 2-0, and then I fought an Elena named Aura the Shifter, and I won that set 2-0, and then suddenly, just like that, I was in the losers top 8. Like, I wasn't focusing on my placement in the tournament, I was just trying to win the next set. But somehow, I just like locked the fuck in, and I played my ass off, and I got all the way to losers top 8 in my first in-person fighting game tournament, which is crazy to me. Like, that Friday was maybe the best I have ever played both Street Fighter 6 and also any fighting game ever in my entire life up to this point. And I know I've only been playing them like seriously for about a year, but even still, it's wild to me that I was able to get that far. But obviously I'm not going to complain about it. So once the participants were narrowed down to the winners and losers top 8, we moved like out of the arcade and went up to a separate stage where the top 8 was going to be live streamed. And I wasn't like in the first match up there, but my turn came up like pretty soon, and I was like on the stage fighting my opponent live on stream, which is wild to me. It was really cool, actually. So my first match in the top 8 was against Zeknel, and they were a Guile player. And I checked the bracket once I got home, and it turns out that Zeknel had already beaten Seesaw previously, knocked him out of the tournament entirely. So they were even scarier than I was anticipating, because I was about to say I have a hard time with Guile. Everybody has a hard time with Guile. He's like one of the archetypal zoner characters. If he's not throwing sonic booms at you, he's flash kicking you. He is a menace to Street Fighter players everywhere and has been for the past like 30 some odd years. Right, so back to Zekno. I won that match. I won that set 2-0 yet again. For those of you who've been keeping track at home, that is in fact 4 separate sets where I won 2-0 in a row. I was playing out of my mind. But yeah, unfortunately, that is where my tournament run comes to an end, because my next match, I went up against a Ken player named Jinxed Forever, spelled kind of phonetically, kind of funny. They beat me 2-1. I didn't go down without a fight. I made them work for it, and I'm not like upset about it. I knew I probably wasn't going to win the tournament, and indeed that didn't happen. Even if I had beaten Jinxed Forever, there's a good chance that the Kimberly player or one of the other players would have beat me, because there were some strong players in that tournament. But I did far better than I thought I was ever going to. In that sense, I kicked some amount of ass, actually. I'm super happy with how I played in that tournament, and it's reinvigorated my enthusiasm and love for both Street Fighter 6 and fighting games in general. This tournament was it was so much fun, and I had a great time, and it was I think I really needed this, to be honest. So I'm happy to have played. But I forget what their name was, but it was the Kimberly player that ended up winning. They were, oh god, they were so scary. If I had went up against them at all, I would have probably crumbled immediately. But it's fine, I didn't. Maybe next year, who knows? I want to do more in-person tournaments. I want to play with more people. I need to look into see if there's like a local scene around where I live. I feel like there should be. The city I live in is decently large. It's not like New York big or even Atlanta big, but it's pretty wide. You know what I mean? It's kind of a wide city, if that makes sense. So after the tournament, I went and met up with another friend of mine named Sean. I don't think he streams, and I'm not going to link to his artist page because he draws things that are of an adult nature. Read into that how you will. We just we've been friends for a few years, but kind of like Theo, we hadn't had the chance to meet in person. Although, in this case, we live a lot closer to each other. Theo is in a noticeably different part of the country, whereas Sean and I are basically in neighboring states. But anyway, I met up with him and we just hung out and talked and walked around for a couple hours, and I wore my poor feet out, but it was worth it. Got to know each other a little better, discuss some stuff, talk about life and jobs and furry stuff, and it was good. It was good. It was really good. I'm glad we got the chance to meet each other. Nice. Eventually, he had to go back home, so I walked him down to the MARTA station, and if you don't know what that is, it's basically Atlanta's own dedicated subway system. It's not the size of a New York subway, but it is still a train network, which is really cool. I think it stands for Metropolitan Atlanta Rail Transit Authority or something like that. And then after that, I went back to the hotel to charge my phone for a while. And before I headed back to my motel that night, I went to a stop that I like to frequent, and I visited a place called Gangnam Sauna. And it's a Korean spa that's open 24 hours a day, thankfully. You stop there, it's $30, and you can stay for as long as you want. And I stayed for around 90 minutes, a little under 2 hours. I was pretty tired that night, because I had been running around all day and stuff. It was nice, and it was good for my feet too, because in addition to a hot tub, there's also a cold tub, and I don't mean cold as in lukewarm, I mean cold as in freezing. Will give you probably frostbite if you stay in it for prolonged periods, but even just resting my feet in there for brief periods was very helpful. So I stayed there for a while, and then I finally went back to my motel and turned in for the night. And that was my Friday. My Friday was pretty damn busy. So Saturday was fairly busy, not as busy as Friday was, but there was still a decent amount of stuff. So as soon as I got there on Saturday, I went straight to the dealer's den, which was in a separate building from the main hotel complex entirely. It was in a place called I think it was called America's Mart, which is just this big ass shopping center building. And the wait to get in was a while. I was there for probably 45 minutes. once I was finally in, once you're finally in, you're given pretty much free reign to, you know, run around and stuff. And there's always so much stuff to see in the dealer's den. There are so many different artists selling their stuff. It's always cool to see like just how many artists there are in this community. It's wild to think about, actually. I spent a good long while wandering around the dealer's den checking stuff out. I bought a few stickers from an artist called Florid Corded, and they were cool bird stickers that I really liked. I didn't buy any more than that because I didn't really have much room to spare in my budget for much else. But unfortunately, I lost those stickers a couple hours later. I don't know where I could have possibly put them. I must have just like sat down temporarily to like take a break or something or other, and I just lost track of them. I checked the lost and found several times, but they never turned up, so I well and truly lost them. I'm not too hung up about them. They're just stickers. I can probably order more on their website if I had to guess. I haven't checked that, but I'm assuming that's the case. Perhaps erroneously. It was still kind of a bummer. There were multiple things about Saturday that were kind of a bummer in retrospect, but I was in there long, and I was in the dealer's den long enough that I missed the Beyblade tournament. Oh yeah, there was a Beyblade tournament that I wanted to check out. I don't know when this started happening, but people just started playing a lot of Beyblade at furry conventions. I remember when I was at FWA 2024, I was picking up a commission, and like just right nearby, people were playing Beyblade matches. Like, I haven't thought about Beyblade since like literally middle school, but people are just doing that now, and honestly, good for them. I'm kind of into it. I wanted to check out the tournament, but I was in the dealer's den long enough that I just missed it entirely. Which is kind of a bummer, but also not too big a deal. I'll probably get the chance to see it again at some point, I'm sure. But so instead of that, I went back to the arcade, as was my wont. I stayed in the arcade a long-ass time at this convention in general. I ran into Theo again there, and I got to teach him how to play JoJo's, which was fun. But unfortunately, he injured his back somehow. He has some sort of spinal condition. I don't remember the name of it, and also it's not really my place to talk about it much because it's not my problem to deal with. But so yeah, I couldn't do much else for Theo, sadly. So I escorted him to his room, and we hung out there for a little while and talked some. But I had to leave eventually to like let him get some rest and stuff. So, in lieu of spending more time with him for the time being, nice whetstone, I went to the Meet and Beak, which was the bird furry meetup. I know the whole point of going to specific meetups is to, like, you know, meet people. It's right in the name, and talk to them and get to know them. But unfortunately, my social anxiety ass can never quite manage. The most I end up doing is just wandering around, people watching. Nice counter. I did manage to talk to a couple of folks at least. There was a guy walking around like asking everybody what species their persona was. He said he was quote unquote bird watching, which was really funny. He was like making a list. That was pretty fun. And you know, there were pictures towards the end of the meetup. That was nice as always. But mostly I was just vibing, people watching. You know how it is. After that, I walked back to the arcade and I played some more JoJo's, including against somebody who actually knew how to play, seemingly. It felt like most of the people I saw who were playing JoJo's were either new to that game or new-ish to fighting games in general, which is fine. But I ran into somebody. I didn't get their name. I should have asked. I ran into somebody who actually knew what they were doing. They played Whole Horse, and we went back and forth on a few games, and that was fun. But after that happened, I went over to the Hyatt, which is the third hotel in this little cluster, and I hung out with my friend Karma for a while. We don't see each other too often. Pretty much just at furry conventions. So yeah, I hung out with Karma for a little while, not too long, probably like 30-45 minutes, and then we were catching up with each other and stuff, seeing how our lives had been. But after I was done hanging out with Karma, my intention was... Oh my god, shut up. My intention was to go to the Moonlight Festival and spend a couple hours there. And for those of you who aren't aware, the Moonlight Festival is essentially like an adults-only rave where you're allowed to wear skimpier outfits than is normally acceptable in polite society. You're like, you can't be naked there. Nobody's bits are gonna be out, and there's not gonna be like any PDA, or at least any loudly advertised PDA, but you can wear some skimpy outfits there, and that was my intention. But where was I? Right, Saturday. So my intention was to go to the Moonlight Festival, which is this adults-only rave, etc., etc. I already did this spiel earlier, but unfortunately I wasn't able to go, and it was for a stupid reason. So back in 2024, the first year I went to FWA, it was just a normal, like, physical queue, and the wait was like about 45 minutes probably, if I had to guess. It's been a couple years, so I don't fully remember, but that sounds correct. It wasn't like the longest wait. So 2025, they switched over to an online queue where you like reserve your place in line on a specific website, and then you wait for your place to come up in the queue. And that, I think that was like kind of a last minute thing that they weren't originally intending on doing, because they kind of gave up on that partway through the night, which is fine with me. But this year they did the queue, the online queue again, and they were all in on it. Unfortunately, I don't know if I wasn't using the page properly, or there was just like an error because so many people were trying to use it at once. But like I waited, heavy air quotes on waited, in that queue for like 3 hours, and my turn never came up, so I just kind of like gave up in frustration, which is unfortunate. I wanted to go to the Moonlight Festival. I really enjoyed it the past 2 years I went. It was like one of the highlights of my first year at FWA, just because I had never done something like that before, and it was fun. But like, it wasn't the end of the world that I missed it. I've technically already been to it twice, so I'm not missing anything that I haven't already like been to / seen. There's a lot of boys here. It's still frustrating, but like not the worst thing that I didn't get to go. So instead of that, I went to say hi to Theo again. We talked a little bit. That was nice, just to get to see him again, check in on him, see how he was doing. And then after that, I went back to my motel. So Sunday was also kind of a chill day, which is fine with me after how busy Friday and to a lesser extent Saturday was. So I checked out of my motel, went to the convention, kind of hung out for a little while, just charging my phone, people watching, etc., etc. I went to the arcade, played more games with people. I played Third Strike for the first time, and that was fun. I've been meaning to play Third Strike at some point, and this was the perfect excuse to do that, like in person, on an actual physical Third Strike cabinet. Because when would I get the chance to do that again? You know, I even managed to win a couple of matches against a Hugo / Alex player. If you're wondering, I picked Makoto because she's cool. I feel like once I start actually seriously trying to learn that game, then I'm gonna try and learn it with Makoto, because she's really fun. She's a really cool character. But after that, I went and watched roughly the first half of the charity auction, which is exactly what it sounds like. They were selling a whole bunch of cool furry specific items donated by various people, and donating to a charity that I don't remember the name of, unfortunately. I feel really bad about it. I'll try and Google it later and see if I can find it and flash it up on screen for the edited video if I can. But there was some cool stuff for sale there. I didn't bid on anything because I didn't want to actually accidentally win something that I wouldn't be able to pay for because of my lack of budget. But I did watch, and there was some cool things for sale there. I think they were trying to sell all of the different standees that were put up around the convention, which was cool. And they had a bunch of art prints and various other things. They were selling leftover keychains with funny numbers. the 421, the 671, the 69 etc. Those all went for a surprising amount of money. One of the first items that was up for bid was and I quote, a UV reactive wizard hat, which, who would even think to make one of those, much less, put it up for auction, but that was cool. There was a pair of Agretzko posters signed by Ben Diskin, the voice actor for Haida. There was an FWA road sign. There were multiple of those, actually. There were some vinyl records on sale, there was an adorable Raven plush, there was all sorts of cool stuff. I didn't stick around for the whole thing, because I went to say hi to Theo again. And actually I need to back up a little bit. So when I first got there on Sunday, I found a nice quiet flat place, and I sat down and I drew some birds for Theo. I had asked him earlier in the weekend what his favorite bird was, and he finally got back to me that his favorite birds were loons. If you don't know what a loon is, it's a they're related to ducks. They're waterfowls basically. So I sat down and I drew a bunch of loons on a sketch page for him, and when I went to go hang out with him after the charity auction, I gave him that page. I'm not going to put that on screen because that's just friend stuff. That's for me. So this would be the last time I ended up seeing Theo at a convention. And I don't know when we'll get to see each other again, because again, we live in pretty disparate parts of the country. And I don't know when the next time will be that we'll like end up at the same furry convention. So I wanted to make sure I sent him off with something. So after I said hi to Theo, I went back to the Hilton and I hung out for a little while, and then I went to the Trio Menagerie concert. And Trio Menagerie is a group of classical musicians. They're a string trio. They play various things like original compositions and classical music and arrangements of various themes from like TV shows and video games and things. And that was a cool concert. I'm glad I went. And that was the last like major like named thing on the schedule, because after that I went back to the arcade again. I went back on my bullshit, and I just played games with people until the arcade closed for the weekend. I got to play some more Street Fighter 6. I played some sets against a Bison player named Vega, which is funny if you know Street Fighter trivia. And apparently they were a High Master player, and I didn't find that out until... Oh, hold on. But yeah, after the arcade closed down, I went back to the Marriott, and I sat down for a couple hours just charging my phone, making sure that was all good. And I said goodbye to my friends who were there, and I drove home. The drive home was fine. It was uneventful. I had to stop once for a restroom break, but otherwise I got back home. I got back home without any problems. I don't know that I'll drive home the last night of a con for future conventions, because it kind of took a lot out of me. I was so tired once I got back home. But yeah, that was my FWA 2026. There were some ups and downs, and no con has gone like perfectly smoothly. I wasn't expecting this one to either. And there were some unfortunate things happening, some annoyances, but overall I had a really good time. I got to do some new things. I got to take part in my first in-person fighting game tournament and do really well. I got to meet some friends in person for the first time. I got to hang out, got to play games with people, got to eat good food. It was a good. Got to draw some stuff, got some stickers. It was a good time. It was a great time. I'm already looking forward to next year. I don't know if I'll do any more furry conventions this year. There's a couple happening in August that I might do. There's one in Denver called Denver. You'll never guess why it's called that. That one's on the table because my friend and old roommate lives in Denver now, and he's not a furry, but he's kind of interested in checking things out, so that would be a good excuse to like fly up there and spend some time with him. But like the ball's in his court on that one. I'm not gonna like force him to go, obviously. And then there's also Megaplex, which is happening in Florida. It's technically like pretty close to me, but it would be a farther drive than FWA is, and I also can't really justify shelling out for like plane tickets because it's not far enough away. So like I'm kind of ambivalent on going because of stupid logistics reasons. And other than those two, I don't really have a whole lot of money right now. So I'm not sure what the future is gonna look like for me vis-a-vis furry conventions, but I'm hoping to go to more, but we'll see. But yeah, I had a really good time. Hopefully I'll have a good time next year. We'll see. I guess that's about it. I guess I'm about done yapping about furry conventions, so I can go back to playing the video game, giving it my full undivided attention, because that's what this game needs. Anyway, see you next year, FWA.
All right, we're all set.